السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، أما بعد. So tonight is the last class, and it's the last rule, القاعدة الثانية عشرة, the 12th rule or the 12th maximal principle that Imam Saajid rahimahullah discussed in this book. And it's not limited to these, but he only discussed 12 of them. So this last one, which is on page 48, is العرف والعادة يرجع إليه في كل حكم به الشارع ولم يحده بحد. It says customs and habits, custom and habit, both return to every ruling the legislator makes but does not confine. طيب, meaning either Allah or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they clearly define the ruling on something and what and how to do it, or the ruling is clear, but how to do it is not clear. It's possible that the ruling is clear and how to do it is clear. And it's possible that the ruling is clear and how to do it is not clear. Meaning, how to do it has not been spoken on in the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when those things are not spoken on in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in those cases, then we go to the urf, the custom or the habit of the people where a person is living. And this is why there's other rules connected to the custom or the habit, and every custom or habit is not accepted, but he's going to get into all of that. So he says, number one, this rule, this principle is applied in a lot of different areas. It's not just in one area. It's applied in transactions, rights, etc. Every ruling, you have to know two things. It's ma'rifatul hadd, knowledge of its limit. Meaning, it says here in the book, knowledge of its limit. You have to know the limit that can be established. Or has it been clearly defined in the Quran or in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? And it'll make more sense when we see the examples. He says, after the Sharia puts a ruling applied to it, if we find that the legislator, who is the legislator? Allah or the Prophet ﷺ, right? After they have ruled something to be either obligatory, right, or it's recommended, or it's prohibited, or it's disliked, or it's lawful, it says, and he confined it. Meaning, they defined what has to be done. In order for you to do something, you have to do this. It is obligatory to pray. What is the prayer? The prayer looks like this. That means what it looks like is clear, and the ruling on it is clear. You with me? As long as they're both clear, then that's what we follow. We're shown how to pray in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. We're commanded to pray in the Quran, and then the Sunnah shows us how to pray. So both of them are clear, right? But it's possible that the ruling on something is clear, but the how to do it isn't clear, or the how to do it hasn't been specified that you have to do it this way. And this is where the custom of the people come in. He says, as long as it's been clarified right, and explained and distinguished and returned, then we return to the explanation that we find in the Quran and the Sunnah. طيب. Is that clear? The examples are going to make it a little clearer, inshallah, because sometimes it's wordy. It says, as is the case with the command to pray and the mention of its virtue and reward, right? When it comes to the salat, the legislator has confined it and mentioned its detailed rulings which distinguish it from other acts of worship. So the prayer is clear. The command to pray is clear. And how to pray is clearly defined in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, right? Therefore, that's what we return back to when it comes to the prayer. And everything also when it comes to zakat, fasting, hajj. As long as it is clearly explained, there's no doubt how we're supposed to do it. The issue is, as when the legislator rules on the matter but does not confine it, it's not really defined on how to do it. This is when the habit or the custom of the people comes in. And this is on page 49. He says, as for when the legislator rules on a matter but does not confine it, then it is applied to the slaves of Allah according to their custom and habit. According to their custom and habit. It is clarified to them to do so, as is the case with respect to the statement of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah said in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, Allah said, and live with them, meaning your wives, in kindness. And live with them in kindness. So what's clear from the ayat that we have to do? Just from that ayat. Huh? To live with your wife, your spouse in kindness. Right? That's clear. That's a clear command from Allah in the Quran. Now, what's not defined is what? Exactly. What's kindness mean? What does that mean? That's not clear. It hasn't been specified. Everybody with me? There's nothing specific in the Quran and Sunnah saying what does kind equal. If you do this, this is kind. There's some things that are general. So in that case, when it's not defined by the Quran or the Sunnah, how do we determine what kindness is? It goes back to, for us, it goes to our custom, our habit amongst us, because everybody's custom is different, right? So to us, kindness means one thing. There's some things that we might generally share with people on the other side of the world. And then there's some things that's specific to us. And then they have some things that's specific to them. We're not obligated to implement their custom, right? What's on us is we can use our custom and they can use theirs, and it might be two different things. He says, so both kindness in the Sharia and kindness according to reason are applicable in the verse. Another example, Allah said, وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ, enjoin what is good. Command people to do what is good. So what's the good here? It's left general. It's not defined all the way like that. When it's not defined like that, then those type of things return back to the custom of the people. He says numerous issues are going to fall under this rule. Right? Allah has ordered being good to one's parents, being good to one's relatives, being good to orphans, being good to the poor, being good to the wayfarer, the traveler, as well as being good to the entire creation. Therefore, all that is included in the word good, ihsan, which people practice customarily, then it applies to the command that we find in the Quran. Allah said command with good. So when it says be good, Islam doesn't necessarily define what good is exactly specifically. But we know the command is to be good to the parents, right? وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and be good to your parents. What does that mean to be good to your parents? What does the good mean? It's left without a definition Islamically. What's clear Islamically is that we are obligated to be good to our parents and honor and respect our parents. What does honor and respect mean to us here in our area? You with me? Our honor and respect might not be the same honor and respect you find in another country. Clear? So what's an example of being respectful to your parents? Don't everybody. Huh? Say that again.
Obeying in general.
So you.
That which is good is also good.
Jay, be a little more general.
Calling them up.
Jay, calling them and doing what?
Checking on them.
Just calling them and checking on them, right? To call on and check on your parents is considered good. Yes. Again? To listen to your parents, right? The parent expects the child to listen to them when they tell them to do something, right? As long as it's nothing that's going outside of what we're Islamically obligated to do. As long as they don't tell us to do anything haram, right? As long as they don't tell us to do anything that Allah said don't do, or that the Prophet said don't do, then, right? What else? What else consider being good? Because the point is calling up, like you said, calling up your parents and checking on them. You don't find that in the Quran or the Hadith. There's no verse or ayah saying that. Call them up, right? But we understand as a people to call and check on them, especially when they get older and stuff like that. To call and check on people is a good, something good. What else is considered good? Or not just parents. It says to the poor, being good to the poor. Yes. Helping them and giving them money. That's good. It doesn't say necessarily you have to give poor people money. Some verses do, or some texts may mention the benefit in giving people who don't have, helping people out generally, right? So the point is that when it's not defined Islamic, when there's no text stating it, then in that case, we go with what we generally understand to fall in that category. It's going to switch depending on what we're talking about, meaning what's good for parents, what's good for relatives, what's good for the poor. Will we do something that's good for the poor? Don't necessarily the same thing that we do something good for our parents. You understand? So each section has maybe different. He says, so in that case, we go back to the custom of the people because Allah left it general. That means it's not defined if it's general. Tayyib. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, Kullu ma'ruf sadaqah. Every good act is charity. Every good act is charity. So this shows, he says, this is a clear text that indicates every act a slave of Allah does to others, which is a type of good, then it is counted as an act of charity. Anything good, right? And again, things that are good could vary from city to city. From city to city, things could vary. From definitely country to country, or even from inside the country, from the northern side to the southern side, the east and the west, all of that could vary. Tayyib, you ready? Because now we're going to get into the details of the different sections where this applies. Tayyib. It says, this is on page 50. Allah and His Messenger stipulated in contracts, mu'awadat, and donation contracts, tabarra'at, that both parties are satisfied when you do business. That both parties, the buyer and the seller, or both people signing the contract, that when they make a deal, they're satisfied. Right? Nobody's forced. Nobody's forced to do anything. Everybody's comfortable. That's 50, page 50. Everybody's comfortable and that they're satisfied. Right? It says, but Allah and His Messenger did not stipulate a specific wording for such contracts. So there's no specific thing you have to say in the contract. What we do know is we got to stay away from what? Anything that Allah and His Messenger told us to stay away from. Outside of that is open. Right? So there's no specific wording to show. Is there a specific wording to show that everybody's satisfied? No. In that case, it goes back to what we understand as a people in our area, right? That people are satisfied. And that's why it says they did not stipulate wording for those type of contracts or any actions which indicate that the contract and satisfaction of the objective has been achieved. Anything that we know, right? Anything that we know, it could be something we say or something we do. It shows that we satisfied, that's counted. Islamically, that counts. Meaning, Meaning, if you went to court and you tried to take somebody to an Islamic court, they would ask you, well, how did the transaction go? What was said? Well, we said this. Well, what is understood by that? Where y'all from? What do y'all understand by that? Well, we understand that, right? If I say to you, for example, I need to hold a bean, right? If I say I need to hold a bean, what do you understand from that? What do we understand? Huh? I need to borrow $100. No matter how you say it, what's understood where y'all from, right? I need to hold a bean. The expectation is that I'm going to do what? I'm going to give it back, right? That's the expectation. It's understood. Customarily, it's understood. That's the expectation, and that's a contract. That's a business contract. That comes in. You're lending me something, right? Is there a specific wording I have to say? Write it down. Yeah, all of that you can do, but there's also things outside of that that's understood customarily. It's understood that you borrowed $100 from somebody based on that statement. Is that what y'all understand by that? Yes, that's what I understand. Well, that means you borrowed the money based on how y'all understand it, even though that wording is not in the text of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Clear? So when it's not defined like specifically in the Quran and the Sunnah, it goes back to the custom. It's nothing Islamically saying that we can't say, hey, let me hold the bean, right? Or however we word it. It's nothing Islamically that say we can't talk like that. Tayyib. And this is why it says, accordingly, scholars state the contract is set by whatever statement or action indicates it. Whatever y'all agree on, as long as it's nothing haram. Outside of that, y'all put wording together, and somebody else, a third party might come, somebody not from Philly, for example, they might come and read the word and not understand what y'all mean by that. But everybody from Philly understands that. Everybody from Philly understands what that means. And if that's the case, you're held to that Islamically. Clear? Everybody with me? Or whatever city you're in. Because you go to another city, you go to New York, they might have words that we don't understand. You go down south, they got other words that we don't understand. Let alone go outside of the country. Right? If that's the case, then you're held. Islamically, we're held to those words that we use or actions. It could be actions. Right? It could be something that we do that we seal a deal. How we seal a deal? We might shake hands, right? Look each other in the face, shake, nod, head nod. We understand something by that, right? Might say bet, one word, all right? Whatever's understood, then Islamically you're held to that. If it comes up a problem later, the question is, well, what happened? How was the contract performed? What happened? Tayyib. He says, contracts in which taking possession is stipulated refers to whatever people consider taking possession to be. And this differs according to the circumstance. There's a contract where within the contract, within the agreement, we agree on something, right? And in this contract, somebody's going to take ownership of something, right? Somebody's going to take ownership of something. Somebody's going to come take some type of possession. It could be a car, it could be a book, it could be a bag, whatever it is, somebody's going to take something. That's what we're agreeing on in the contract, right? So now the question is, it says, whatever the people consider taking possession to be, then that's taking possession, right? So if we agree that you're going to pick up a car at such and such time, for example, right? I need you to come get this by such and such time, or they're going to charge me an extra $100, right? What do we consider you taking the car? Once you do what, you've taken the car. That's a question. Huh? No, we made a contract, right? But in the contract says you got to be here to get the will by 7 o'clock. If you're not here by 7 o'clock, I mean, I got the key. I'm going to leave the key on the doorstep, or I got the key right here waiting, right? But you got to be here on time to get the car. When is the car considered, as we say, that you took the car? After what? Huh? When you come get the key. Once you come get the key, you took the car. It's out of my responsibility. We can say he took the car. I ain't nothing to do with it anymore, right? I didn't see you. You took the key at 6:55. You took it. Now it's on you to fulfill everything after that, right? Do we have to write that down? That once you come get the key, the car is now. We don't have to. We can, But things that's understood, even if it's not written down, Islamically, you're held to it. You understand what I'm saying? Now, 7 o'clock was just the time, but even if it's 7 o'clock and the person didn't come get the key, they didn't take the car. That means the car's still in my possession, right? It's out of my possession once you do what? At least take the key. Now, if you move it off the premises and all that's on you. If you leave it there, you took the key and then you jumped in another car and went somewhere and they came and towed it, you can't come back to me. You took the key. It's in your possession, right? So yeah, it says, the scholars stipulate that stealing refers to taking something that is guarded, right? If you're stealing, that means you took something that was guarded. Well, what's guarded mean?
Under somebody's possession.
Hmm?
Under somebody's possession.
Or let's say this. What does Islam define guarded as?
Something that belongs to somebody else.
La. It's protected. Tayyib. So that means you stole something that was protected. That means if it was not protected, then what? It's not the same. It's not the same. Clear? Every protection or guard differs based on where you are. So for example, how do you protect your car these days? Huh? You lock the door. 15, 20 years ago, how did you protect your car? The John. You don't even know the name of it. The John. The club. That was part of protecting your car then. That's not really part of protecting your car now. Right? So 15, 20 years ago, you might could use that as an argument. I had the club on and I had the doors locked. And he still took it. Oh, he violated for sure. Right? What if a person leave a car door open, the windows down, and the car door unlocked? Do we consider that as a people? Do we consider that protecting your property? We consider that what? What would you describe? How would you say about a person who left their car windows down and the doors unlocked with no club on it? What would you say about the person? Whoever left their car like that? They're out of pocket. We need a better. Give me a careless. Definitely out of pocket. But careless, right? We would describe that person as careless. As a people here, we describe that as careless. Now, you might go somewhere else, or you might go in a different neighborhood, or you might go in a different city. And for them to leave their windows down and the door unlocked is not careless to them. That's possible. You understand? Point being, Islamically, what is defined as being careless? What is defined as being guarded? There is no strict definition. Therefore, it's left up to the custom of the people. And that's why a person could go to court and you might look at it and you say, well, how do they get off on that? Based on where they are, based on what's understood amongst them people, that might not fall under that rule. It doesn't mean there won't be another repercussion, but would you describe that as stealing or not? That could be the situation. He said the definition of a guard or a safe is based on the custom, right? Therefore, personal wealth can have different kinds of guardians, right? Other types of wealth have guardians. Everything has its consideration. Everything is not guarded the same, right? If a person said they had a bunch of money in the house, what's considered that you're safely guarding your money that's in the house? It's hidden. A safe. A safe is a standard, like at least it was in the safe, at the least, right? Because your hiding spot might not be that good. your hiding spot might not be that good. But if it was sitting in the safe, right, at the least a person took the precaution of the safe, right? So what they're trying to say is basically everything that you are guarding has a specific consideration. You don't put a car in a safe. But there is a way to protect and guard your car. You do at least what? At least you lock the doors and you roll the windows up. That's the most I could do. I got an alarm on it. I did all of that and somebody still came and took it, stole it. Okay, that person violated, as we say. They went, you understand? It comes to money, that's a different thing. I don't guard money by rolling the windows up and locking the doors, right? But at the same time, I don't go live on Instagram and walk through my house and show everybody where my money is. Right? Go live on the Instagram, walk through the house, show everybody where I keep my money, and then tell everybody I'm going out of town tomorrow. Right? That's not considered safeguarding, right, your property, safeguarding your money. So that's why it says everything has its consideration. Everything depends. It all depends. How do people guard their money here where you are? How do people protect their property and things like that? It's going to vary from situation to situation. It says on page 51, a safekeeper, which is a safekeeper in this case is somebody that you leave responsible for something. Right? You put them in charge of something, or you designate them to hold something, to protect something for you, right? Say, for example, you ask somebody, you say, I'm going out of town, right? I need you to hold my car key or my house key, right? The person holding it, the person that you trusted to hold your house key or your car key or whatever it is you're asking to hold, it says, then he is liable. They're responsible if they lose it. They got to buy you another, whatever it was. They have to replace it because they're responsible, right? It says for whatever, when are they responsible though? They're responsible for whatever people consider negligent or a transgression. So let's say, for example, you left somebody your car. You went out of town. You said, listen, I need you to look out, hold my car for me until I get back. They take the car, they go park the car, right? They never drove the car. They put the keys in the house, roll the windows up, lock the door, parked it in their driveway, right? Meanwhile, while you out of town, it's a thunderstorm and a tree falls on the car. Would you consider the person that you left and responsible for were they being irresponsible with your car? Then in that case, they're not responsible for that, Islamically. You understand? Are they being irresponsible? No, the car's parked. Everything that they supposed to do, they did. And something still happened outside of their control or outside of, then they're not, Islamically, they're not responsible for that. You can't hold them accountable for a tree falling on your car or it's a flood and your car float away. What are you going to say? Well, why you parking in the driveway? Well, if I'd have parked it on the street, you would have said, well, I didn't park it in the driveway. So I parked in the safest place possible, roll the windows up, lock the doors. It was a bad storm, and the car got damaged. You can't hold me responsible for that Islamically. Clear? Customarily, as far as what we understand, then what? What we understand, where we from, if that happened, what would you say to the person? Huh? To report it? So I ain't got nothing to do with that. A person gonna be expecting something. You bought that. Who is on who? The person who you left it with. Right. The person who was watching it, we like, yo, I can't take that L like that. Right, I left the car with you. What you mean? You're not responsible.
I think even in the courts, they might be. Even in the courts, that person might have those.
The person that had it?
Yeah.
You maybe. But that's the difference for when I hate to use that term, but as Muslims, Islamically, and that's what we live by. Even if we live in America, we could be living anywhere. We live by the Islamic code. Islamically, you can't hold a person who did everything they were supposed to do to secure something, and then something happens outside of their control. You can't hold them responsible for that. Islamically. Now, a person might go to the court and still get something and still make them pay for it. Well, Islamically, that's not really your haq. That's not your right to do that. Now, if the person was negligent, then that's a different case. You leave their car, they driving around in the car, they go down somewhere, and when they was out there, wherever they was at, they left the doors unlocked. They forgot to lock the doors. They was in there for an hour and a half, somebody come steal the car. That's a different case. Now they're considered negligent. You say, number one, you weren't supposed to be driving my car, right? Number two, you all the way down there and left the doors unlocked. In that case, Islamically, they're responsible. You understand? But if a person, as we say, they went the whole nine to secure, and then something else happens Islamically, they're not responsible. Tayyib. It says, This is another example. Whoever finds something, this is a chapter. Whoever finds something, a lost item, what they supposed to do if you find something lost? Islamically, huh? It says it is binding on him to make it known for an entire year, right? You're supposed to make it known that the item, somebody lost a phone. You're supposed to keep announcing it for how long? A year. Islamically, we Muslims. Everything we do is Islamically. As Muslims, everything we do is Islamically. Anything outside of that, we got a problem. If we thinking outside of a Muslim, how Muslims think, then that's why we had the problems we have, right? We're supposed to announce it and make it known. Now the question is, how do you announce it? It depends on where you are, right? It depends on where you are. How do people make announcements where you are? What's the habit or what's the custom where y'all are to make announcements? How do y'all announce things to let people know things are going on? How do we do stuff now? Social media, right? On the internet. I mean, you make the announcement over and over and over. For how long? A year. Point being, we know we got to make the announcement for the year Islamically, but we don't know how we're supposed to make the announcement. Islam doesn't define how you have to announce it. So therefore, it goes back to the custom. It says, and if he is unable to find the owner, he becomes the owner. After how long? Not a year of tucking it, though. Now you just tuck it for a year and let it sit. No, a year of announcing it. And announcing it, not announcing it where a way that's not normal. Announcing it in the normal way that we announce stuff so that it gets out there. You're really trying to find the owner. And after a year, you don't find the owner. In that case, it's a different situation. طيب. He says, referring back to what is customarily accepted in terms of spending on wives, relatives, possessions, employees, etc. Right? Just as Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam have clarified that referral is to be made to one's customs with respect to living with wives. طيب. The term ma'ashira is more comprehensive than spending. So when it comes to spending on your wife, right? We know that it's obligatory for the man to do what? Spend on his wife. How much? It's not specified in the Quran and Sunnah how much has to be spent. So it goes back to the custom, right? There's certain things that are in line. The man is supposed to provide the food, the clothing, the shelter. How much food? What type of food? How often we got to buy clothes? What type of clothes they have to buy her? Where does she have to live? What type of house, apartment? All of that stuff is not specified. So it goes back to the custom. Or relatives, if you're responsible for taking care of relatives, right? Or your employees. There are things that are clear, and then there are things that are left open to the custom. Now, living with your wife, your spouse is one thing. Spending on her is something else. They're not exactly the same, right? A nafaqah is how much you spend. This is a big misunderstanding. It's a big misunderstanding. Nafaqah, like, what is a woman, what is she entitled to? As a wife, what do I have to buy my wife? Like, what do I have to feed my wife? Have to and preference are two separate things. Have to, if I don't do it, I'm a sin. It's a sin on me, right? And Allah could punish me for it, right? That's have to. Like, what is on you? Islamically, what is on you? And anything you do over that, right? And a lot of times, the misconception is that if we really got to the bottom of, hopefully we will when we do Kitab al-Nikah, inshallah, the book of marriage. If you really look at it, what the obligation is for the man, a lot of times marriages will probably be saved. Marriage will probably be saved. The arguments will be a lot less if you look at what's obligatory for the man to do and what he's doing. A lot of times, a lot of us says we think that they be thinking that, it's my right. No, no, that's beyond your right. Alhamdulillah, he's doing that, right? And I'm not going to go into the details now. That's for another. But many times it's not understood what is the obligation, what has to be done. What has to be done, he has to take care of you. Like he has to buy you clothes. How often do you think he has to take you shopping now? Have to, as opposed to he takes you shopping. Or not even take you shopping, buy you clothes or give you money to buy clothes. How often does that have to be Islamically? And then what the custom says is another thing, right? The custom doesn't override if we have clear text. The custom doesn't override the text. If we don't have a text, then it goes back to the custom. And this is a point here. All customs are not accepted. And he's going to get to that also. So spending is one thing. Then he says the term ma'ashira, living with your wife or living with your spouse, is more general than spending, right? Wa'ashiruhunna bil ma'ruf, and live with them in goodness, right? That includes everything that occurs between the two spouses, from how you speak to each other, how you treat each other with action, living together, and the term is entirely confined by custom. So treating your wife good or treating your husband good, right? We know we're supposed to do that. But what's good speak? How do you talk to your husband in a nice way? Or how do you talk to your wife in a nice way? Or what's not nice? What's not considered speaking to your spouse in a good way? That goes back to the custom, what we understand. Because stuff is normal, y'all, a normal custom don't mean it's good. Don't mean it's Islamically acceptable. Like I heard people refer to their wives as, I'm saying, I don't even know how you refer to a Muslim woman like that at all, let alone your wife. Right? And you're not just talking to her, you talking to other people. Call like how you where Islamically do we get the okay for that? And then it become normal. Comes normal. That's how people refer to their wives. Right? Because it's normal, that's called urf fasid. That's we could say foul, or that's not acceptable. That's a custom that's not accepted Islamically. Every custom is not Islamically accepted. There are customs that are accepted as long as they don't what? The customs that are accepted Islamically are the ones that they don't go against the text. They don't violate anything from the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then in this case, the custom is accepted. But if the custom goes against what the Quran and the Sunnah teaches us, then that's not acceptable. Tayyib, that's not acceptable. So this is why he says everything between the two spouses, how the husband and wife speak to each other, in goodness, what's considered good is based on what we understand to be good. So now we got to get to what is disrespectful. Because she might say, well, he says something that was disrespectful. Right? Or he says, she's talking to me disrespectful. Tayyib, there's some things that are individually, as an individual, I consider that disrespectful. But we might not all consider that disrespectful. Right? And then there's some things that everybody understands that's out of pocket. You can't talk to a man like that. Or you can't talk to a woman like that. You can't talk to nobody like that. You can't talk to a non-Muslim like that. Man, nobody's accepting that. So what makes you think you could talk to your wife like that? Or what makes the wife think she could talk to her husband like that when nobody's going to accept that? Nobody, nowhere in our area is going to accept that type of talk, right? And if that's the case, then it definitely is not allowed between the man and the woman, the husband and the wife, A lot of that has to do with the custom. And again, if we understood that principle, it probably would save a lot of the divorces. The marriages would be saved if we understood the role that the custom plays in our marriage. Because if we really get to what the fuqaha, what the ulama say, that is obligatory for the man to buy the wife, if we really get to that, based on the text, and we get down to that, it would at least, mashallah, I'm kind of shy to even mention it because it's going to take a whole lot to go with it to make sure it's clear. But if we really understood that, and then we look at how we're living customarily, it'll save us. It'll save a lot. And it shows the beauty of Islam. So spending and living together are not the same. Spending on your wife and living with your wife are not exactly the same. Spending is just money. And the women to say that. It ain't all about the money, right? It's other things that she's looking forward to other than just money, right? So, and this is why it says that living is a lot more general. Living is a whole lot more general than just giving her money. How you talk to her, how she speaks to you, right? How you deal with her. We all know some people outside the house, they are mashallah, alhamdulillah, all of the terms. And they go in the house and they say, like, they like tyrants, right? It's just the maddest man in the world. He's evil. But when he comes to the masjid, he like the nicest guy in the world. When she comes to the masjid, she's the soft-spoken, mashallah, shy, and she go in the house and she talk to him like he's a bum, right? When Allah said, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, you're supposed to live in kindness with one another, right? Not that only one person got to extend, both people got to extend. If you're realistically trying to stay married. If you're trying to stay married, like be married, not get married, y'all, because we got a thing with getting married is easy. Hopefully, I don't know if we understand. It's easy to get married, sisters. It's easy to get married. I'm talking about staying married. I'm not talking about getting married and getting divorced in 3 months, getting married and getting divorced in 6 months, and then within 3 years, it's 4 different people. We're talking about getting married and remaining married. It's a difference. And a lot of that comes on top of the basic obligation. On top of the basic obligation, it's a lot more give and take. If we left it to what's obligatory from both sides, everybody mad. There's no way. It's gonna be difficult, right? So there are a lot of things that come with the custom as far as being good to one another. He says next, the menstruating woman. If a woman is on her menses, it says she refers to her particular habit of menstruating when she is unable to distinguish whether her menses is finished or not. So it's possible that a woman doesn't know that her menses is over, right? It says if she doesn't know her usual menstrual cycle, right? She forgot, right? How is she supposed to know when it's okay for her to pray again? Because if we don't know, y'all, it's possible a woman menses and her menstrual cycle ends and she still bleeds. Okay? It's possible her menstrual cycle is for 7 days. Let's just say from the 1st of every month to the 7th of every month is her menses. Right? Now what happens? She starts to bleed for 10 days. What's her menses? Her menses is from where? 1st to the 7th. That's her norm. That's her ada. That's what's normal for her. Well, what's the other 3 days? It's irregular blood. I mean, it could be a problem. It could be something else. Right, but let's just say she forgets her menstrual cycle altogether. It says, then how does she figure out? It says she will refer back to the habit of the women in her family. She looked at the women in her family. What's normal in her family for the women? How many days do the women in her family have a mens? Most of the women in her family have a mens for 6 days. She goes back to 6 days. What if all the women in her family are having a problem? Right? Then it says, otherwise, the habit of the women in her land. What's normal for the women in that area? What's normal? And of course, normal is not 100%. What's the ghalib? Most women have this, and this is what the norm is. Yeah, there's women that have maybe 5 days. There's women that have maybe a little extra. What's the norm? What's the norm? If she can't remember her mens, she forgets her mens, she reverts back to firstly her family. After that, if her family is in the same position she's in, then she goes with the women in her land. Tayyib. Defects, fraud, and deceit all return back to custom. Defect. It's an aib. Something is defective. It's a problem. You bought it and it was already a problem with it, right? Usually, if we don't see it, we say, "Ho, this missing something." So we don't want to pay the full price because it's already defective, right? Tell you now, a defect, or if somebody did something that's fraudulent, right? Or somebody did something deceitful. All of that goes back to what we consider to be a defect, right? So there's some things we might buy, and it really might have a defect in it, but as a people, we like, oh, that's nothing to us. To us, where we are, that's nothing, right? You ever buy something and it has a problem, but you buy it anyway, right? You can overlook that. That problem could be overlooked. Some things we're not gonna overlook as a whole, but some things we buy, even if it has a problem, we overlook it, right? And we pay the regular price that they want. But what about when you go buy some sneaks and that's the last one, and they want you to buy the one off display? They say that's the one on display, that's the last one, right? And then they bring the other one out. And the one on display is usually what? It got some wear and tear on it. So you like, that's like, to us, do we want to pay full price for that? If that's the last one, everybody touching it, the color is not even really the same, right? We generally all look at that and say, how much you want for these? Like, for the price you want. With that, if it was a fresh pair, I could give you the 100. But since it's this, that's a defect to us. That's the last one. That got too much wear and tear on it for me to pay you full price. All right? To us. That's a custom made. That's a custom thing. Some people, you go other places, they be like, no, it's $100. Well, this isn't. Well, that's just what it is. Right? They might not look at it the same way we look at it. So that would be considered something that's a defect. Or deceit. Somebody being deceitful. We got some things, to us, that's being deceitful. Right? You trying to trick people with that. You did that on purpose. You trying to trick somebody. No, I wasn't trying to. No, everybody knows when you do stuff like that, that's trying to you trying to get over. Right? Those things go back to the custom of the people. Deceit in Islam is not allowed. Trickery and tricking people and getting over on people, Islamically is not allowed. Haram. Right? But what is deceit? How you know a person's being deceitful? How you know a person being fraudulent? Well, where I'm from, if a person does this, that's deceit. Well, Islamically, in your area, that would be deceit. Because that's what y'all understand to be deceiving the custom of the people. Then Islamically, that's not allowed. Right? You could take that same action and go somewhere else in another country, another city. They don't consider that to be deceitful. So Islamically, where they are, is not deceitful. And that's why when people come from different areas, some things they'll do and some things they won't do. So a person might come to Philadelphia from somewhere else, right? And where they're from, certain things they don't do. And they're not going to do it here either because it's just uncomfortable. I'm not used to doing that. We won't move like that where I'm from. That's like a violation. I'll give you an example. I first got to Mecca, right? We run in the supermarket. We run in the Bin Dawood, the supermarket. So the norm, it's normal to them. I ain't know. I just got there. We in there not even 10 minutes. Come back out, somebody double park and back of me, like block me in. And he's in the market. So we come out like, yo, I know. Like, he just double parked and left his car. Like, I'm parked in a real spot. He comes and he's not even in a real spot and parks and back of me. And I can't back up. I can't even get out. So I'm standing there, windows down. Right? Windows down, doors unlocked. I'm looking like this crazy. So we standing there for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Can't move. The guy comes out and says, Ma'alish. Right? Ma'alish. Like, my bad. I'm like, yo, like, how you just... You know the guy said to me? He said, why didn't you get in and move my car? I'm looking like, what? Where I'm from, you don't get in nobody's car. Like, you... That's like... You definitely don't get in nobody's car. I can't get it. Not where I'm from. Where I'm from, I can't, not for custom for me to get in a stranger's car that I don't know from a can of paint and move it. I'm not doing that. He said, why don't you just get in and move it? But that's the norm there. They're custom. That's why all the windows is down. It's a stick shift. Put it in neutral. Push it back, move it, and go about your business. Put it back in neutral, put the brake on. That's normal for them. Me, that's a violation, so I can't do that. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, after that, I'll do that now. Once I learn that that's the norm, I'm down with that. I'm cool with that. After that, somebody double park me in, I get in the car. First, they beep your horn. They'll reach in your, they reach through the window, beep the horn. Wait for you to come out, come move your car. If you don't move it, they get in, throw it in neutral, push it back, move their car, move your car back. Right? But before that, I wouldn't do it because that's not from my custom. But their custom is you can do that and there's no problem. Right? Or they make left-hand turns from the far right lane. Right? They make a left-hand turn from the far right lane. So at first I'm driving like, yo, this is crazy. You can't, I'm beeping the horn. I won't let them go by because you know how we get. Now I'm not letting you get by for that. Just for that, I'm speeding up so you can't turn. So I'm speeding up, right? But the thing is, that's normal there. Everybody knows that people make left-hand turns from the right-hand lane. And if a person's doing that, then you let them go. And if you don't let them go, then guess who look crazy? You look crazy for not letting them practice what's normal in their area. You understand? So after that, I let them make left-hand turns from the right-hand lane. So all of that goes back to the custom of the people. He says, likewise, requesting a fair dowry for the woman who is entitled to it, but the amount was not stated. This is another issue of marriage. A brother told me the other day that sometimes, I don't want, I'm just saying. Somebody said they wanted for their dowry, they wanted the brother to pay her student loan. I said, wow. So my question would be, we say that, never mind. Never mind. That's a different conversation. But it says, it's possible that two people get married. We know the dowry, the man has to pay a dowry. How much though? How much does the dowry have to be? That's not specified in the Quran or the Sunnah of the Prophet. Therefore, the dowry varies from place to place, country to country. Right? Fadl.
Would you say that America, more specifically Philadelphia, we don't really have an order for a dowry?
Do we have an order for a dowry? Let's look at it. Let's just say it says the woman is entitled to a dowry. We already know that, right? It says, but the amount when they got married, it wasn't stated. They didn't really specify what her dowry was going to be. She knows she's supposed to get a dowry. He knows he has to give a dowry, but they never really discussed and specified, listen, this is what I want for my dowry. This is the dowry. We agree on it. Khalas. They never did that. Then they get married. Right? Let's use that one the first one. It says the amount varies according to the women's time and places. So which means that according to this type of woman is according to how much of a dowry she's deserving of. If y'all didn't agree on anything. Again, we're talking about they didn't agree on anything. The man and the woman didn't agree on the dowry. We're not talking about, let's just say, for example, she wanted whatever she wants for dowry. She said, I need a new laptop because I do a lot of work, so I need a laptop. I don't even know if sisters ask for dowries, honestly. What do they be asking for? I heard all kinds of stuff. I'm just using the laptop. I heard I'm trying to be like in the middle, something regular. I heard some stuff and I heard some, both ends. Let's just say, she's getting married. She says, I want a laptop. I need one of them, the iPad, the iJones, your stuff. Yeah, the MacBook. I need a MacBook. Right? And that's what they agree on. Khalas, it's done deal. He gets her a MacBook and that's what the dowry is. Alhamdulillah, they go about their business. But what if they never agreed on anything? Right? Now what's considered is the class of the woman, meaning her background is considered. Her background is considered on how much a man has to spend on her as far as the dowry is concerned. So depending on her living and what type of living she's used to, then that's going to depend on what type of dowry she's deserving of and how much money needs to be spent. So they're different classes. Everybody don't come from the same background. Some people come from wealth and some people don't. Some people come from poverty. It all depends on where they come from. Depending on where she comes from is depending on how much needs to be. Wait, sit down until I catch it. How much? Further. Further, shit, yeah. It depends on how much is required for the man to spend. Everybody with me? Meaning, if she came from wealth, you have to give her something that matches her background. If she came from poverty, you have to give her at least, or not even poverty. If she wasn't wealthy, she was in the middle, you give her something that is deserving of that class. You understand? Meaning you don't have to spend a bunch of money for a woman who's not really from that background. And a woman who is from a wealthy background, you need to give her something on the level that she's used to, right? That's assuming they didn't agree on anything now. If they already agreed on something, she said she wanted this and that's what we got her, it's over and done with. But when it's not stated, when they didn't talk about it, we still know, even though y'all didn't talk about it, we still know she has to get a dowry. Now, how much am I supposed to give her? It's possible that they come up with a number and like, all right, khalas, is over. But at the least, we know that the gauge is, well, considering her background, this is what she deserves. And you can't shortchange her, brothers. You can't shortchange her on what she deserves, right? And sisters, you can't, you know what I'm saying, go outside of your class realistically. Everybody know, we all know, we're not crazy, huh? We know what type of backgrounds we come from. We know what we come from and what we're used to. And you should be honest and fair in that assessment of yourself. You know if he going overboard with the dowry or not. Tell him you don't have to do all that. I mean, realistically, you don't have to do all of that. If he insists, alhamdulillah. But don't try to make it like $60,000. I don't know. Maybe she comes from that. Maybe she might have been that type of woman. Allahu alam. But the point is, he says, if the dowry was not stated, then it goes back to that. That's why it says, the amount varies according to the women. The amount varies according to the time. In our time, right? How many of y'all got daughters in here? Tell you. In our time, this is for the brothers with daughters, because the brothers without daughters, they might not understand this part. Sheikh got daughters. In our time right now, would you say, never mind. We do that later. Never mind. Khalas. Tell you, it depends on the woman. It depends on the time, and it depends on the place. Everything depends. There's nothing etched in stone about how much the dowry has to be. There's nothing etched in stone on how much you have to give a woman when you marry her. There's nothing etched in stone. What we do know is we have to give her something. That's for sure. How much? That's going to vary. Now, we could agree on something before the marriage, or we might not. And if we don't agree on something before the marriage and we get married, that means that, okay, we have to consider the person that's in front of you, the area that we're in, what's normal in this area, and the place. Like, you're saying that Philly we don't have a custom? I don't know. Allahu A'lam. Yes. We do? The bus. What you mean? The custom for the dowry.
The bus is a custom for people transportation. That's a custom.
What you mean?
But a summer night, she might take a cab, so I give her $7.
For what? The dowry?
Yes.
I ain't mess with you, shit. When you do something, when somebody does something, that don't make it a custom.
But is that a custom in the city?
No. The custom, for example, no. The sister needs a dowry. What am I going to give her for a dowry? A ring?
You said the custom first.
For the dowry.
Okay, now the custom for the dowry.
A ring?
You don't have none.
Okay. Even if there was no custom, right. Say there was none. Right. Everything is going to go back to the class and the level of the person. If she comes from wealth, then there's a certain level of dowry you have to give that person. Now, she might not even want it, right? She might not want that. She might say, you don't have to do that. That's one thing. But if she's a middle class, then there's a certain level that she needs to be given, like that. That's why it says it depends on the woman, the time, and the place, and all of that comes in the chapter of marriage. And that's the end of the book. He says, either A, the dowry wasn't stated, or B, that the dowry, the amount was invalid. Whatever you gave her for a dowry was fasida. It's invalid. You gave her an invalid dowry. How do you give somebody invalid dowry, huh? Hmm.
It's not on the level.
Huh?
Gave money that was stolen.
You gave her stolen money.
See,
You gave her something. Hey, you gave her something haram. Right? The example that they give, such as stating the dowry being a prohibited. Is that right? Prohibited item? Yeah. Prohibited. I'm sorry. Yeah. Prohibited. A prohibited item. Like what? Somebody's going to give somebody alcohol for a dowry. The dowry don't count. All right, stuff for the law. Let alone that, but even with that, and they do that intentionally, right? You never know what people think. And even if they did do that, Islamically, that dowry doesn't count. It doesn't count. So you still owe her a dowry. You can't give her something haram and say that this is your wedding gift and give her something haram. That means that dowry is fasida. That dowry doesn't count, right? Or an item which does not belong to the groom, like a stolen ring, right? A ring is custom. I actually ain't say nothing. A ring might be custom, but let's just say they didn't agree on anything, right? And he said, you know what, I'm gonna give you this ring. And the ring he gave her was stolen. That dowry doesn't count. I mean, he still owes her a wedding gift. Clear? And of course, let's just say before the marriage, he gave her something stolen. It doesn't count. Before the marriage, he gave her something haram. It doesn't count as a dowry from it. It doesn't count as her wedding gift. That means he still owes her. Now, how is he supposed to figure out what to get her? You're looking at the time that they're living in, the place that they're living in, the type of woman that he's dealing with, which shows that Islam is for every time and every place. There's no time. There is no time where Islam doesn't work. Right now, we're living in a time period that things are different. And we have to understand that Islam fits this time. Is perfect. Our problem is we don't know how to adjust. We think we have to live like other people live. Well, if you go to other countries that practice Islam, they practice Islam and they do things based on their society, not going outside of the text. They still use the Quran and Sunnah. Based on their society, this is what they do. We be trying to live like we somewhere else. And we're not. We right here, and the situation that we're dealing with is a situation that we're in. How do we deal with it as Muslims with the Quran and Sunnah? A lot of times we be scared. We scared to we think that we have to live like we think that we have to live as if we're in Saudi. We ain't living in Saudi. We're not in Egypt. We're not in Morocco. We're not in none of those. We're living in Philadelphia. Islam doesn't just work in Morocco. Islam doesn't just work in Islam works everywhere. We need to understand how to apply it where we're living at.
That's why I have mentioned that, because you look at if an individual want to marry a woman from, I don't know, Palestine, like they have a custom.
Right.
In Philadelphia, they will still go by their custom of like a high dowry, you know. But you clarified that when you mentioned that it depends on the time, the place, and whatnot.
Jade, if a woman is from another country, then at the least, it depends. She's living here. She still might have some of her, her background. Her background is still considered. You can't say, well, you're in Philly now. That's how we do here. You got to take this book. Or whatever. You can't. It's going to be a problem. You understand what I'm saying? It's going to be a problem. It's still, her background has to be considered.
is it ever Islamically acceptable to use? Give an example. Show what I'm talking about. To use the mahar, to use the dowry as a protection, or to use it to gauge something. What I mean by that, I know this happens in multiple countries, but I know a specific country where all the women cover everything, cover everything. So it's been going on for a while, where men will act like they are going to marry a woman just so they can see the woman, have to sit down and see her, and then back out of the marriage. So now the families are using dowry as a way to ensure your seriousness. So they put it very high, and they say half now, and after 10 years, this, like this. Is that ever Islamic acceptable?
They don't want nobody to see the sister that they're going to marry?
No, it's like it's a thing now that.
I'm thinking out loud. I'm sorry. Tell you,
It's,
if a man's gonna marry a woman, right? If a man's gonna marry a woman, right? The woman can see the man. She can see who she, right? Islamically, is allowed for the man to see the woman he's gonna marry. Islamically, no. Islamically is forget. We're gonna get to the Islamically. Is it allowed for the man to see the woman that he's gonna marry? Like when somebody blocks that, what Islam allows, and they come with something else, now we got a problem. We got a problem, and not what Islam said. Islam, you're gonna marry a woman, you need to be able to see who you're gonna marry. She's looking at him clearly. She's covered, so he can't see her. So he's supposed to put up a stack of money and marry somebody he don't see. Like as Islamically, that's a disaster, right? That's a disaster. So you got to look at it. We got to go back to the origin. Well, what's the problem? Number one, does Islam allow for the two people to see each other? Another, Islam allows that. When you go beyond that and try to go against what Islam, then you're going to have problems regardless. And everything after that is just a ball of chaos. And that's going to vary from country to country because I know what they do. They put the dowry up. They don't want nobody to see their daughter. And you got to be serious to see her. Well, Islamically, am I able to see her or not? Like Islamically, am I able to look at the woman's face and see her and see, you understand the woman that you're going to marry? Yeah, if you ain't going to marry, like, and if you plan, if somebody's playing with Allah's religion, if somebody's playing with, if people start playing with Allah's religion, they're going to have to answer. Yom Qiyamah. Yeah, if we playing with Allah's deen, then they're going to have to deal with it anyway, Yom Qiyamah. All right? If we serious about deen, Islam. Does Islam allow a man to see a woman before he marries her? Yes, you can see the woman before you marry her. Then what's the problem? If you that overprotective, then that's another issue. You don't want nobody to see her, even the person that's coming to marry. You don't want the man that's marrying her to come see her either. Then that's another issue you got to deal with. And Allah knows best. So we'll stop there, inshallah. Ask Allah to forgive me for any shortcomings in this.
I just had a question.
Fadal.
Reference the year that we wait until we take the missing item to the hours. Is it the year according to the person that lost the item? Like say, for example, is it a year according to the place where the thing was lost? Like we're Muslims, so we have the Hijri calendar. And I know some hadith when it says a year is referring to the Hijri year, not a Gregorian calendar.
Everything we do Islamically should be on the Hijri calendar.
So because this is
Now, as far as you don't know when the person lost it, so how could you? They could have lost it a month ago. You just found it today. You start making an announcement for a year. You with me? You make the announcement for a year from the time you found it. They could have lost it 6 months ago. You make the announcement for the year, however y'all make the announcements where you're from. Because you know Islamically, you have to make the announcement for the year. However y'all make your announcements, that's what you do for a year. Allah Alam.
Can you move forward with the marriage?
If what?
For the dowry, isn't it?
Can you get married without giving her a dowry? You can. You can be married without the dowry being finalized. It depends. It could be if they put a time frame on it, then that's one thing. But if they leave it open, then it's open. That all depends on the contract. That's in Kitab al-Nikah. Inshallah, we're gonna start Kitab al-Nikah maybe soon, inshallah, so we can do it from the beginning. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.